not even my cat.
Ben is rubbing off on me.
Oh, I can see.
Oof.
I didn't say rubbing up on me, Ben. Although I'm not opposed.
Well, that's a good cold open. Perfect. Perfect. The first line everybody hears for this episode is Jesus.
Good start.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Out of Our League. It's gonna be a fun one today, as you can tell from that amazing innuendo from Phil. We love it. It's great. My name is Gage. I'll be your host today. Joining me over on the far left side, we have Al Tribesman.
Hey there, how's it going?
It's going good. It's good to have you back. It's been a few weeks, I think, since you've been on this show. So
It's been a while, yep.
yeah.
Excited.
Down below on the left, we have Philip J. Woodward. We have at the very bottom, somebody who's apparently going to rub up on Phil at some point. We have Bennett. Please be excited.
What's up?
Joining us today, this weekend, whatever, our very special guest we're very excited about. Right there in the middle, we have Cameron Kennedy.
Hey, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
I just want to say, you're pretty good.
I just listened to Andy's episode yesterday, and I think,
nice.
I think you guys were doing that back and forth at each other at the very beginning.
Yeah. We do it for every guest. There's two things we do for every guest on the show that have just kind of become a staple, and it's the snake. You know, you're pretty good, and then another thing that'll be coming up here pretty soon. But yeah, we always love getting that out there.
It's nice when our guest recognizes that for what it is, and just doesn't wonder what is going on.
Yeah.
Why is this man making a strange voice at me? I don't get it. It's like the reference. Chill.
I don't know, but as long as you like the voice, we can at least say that you're pretty good, okay?
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So to kick things off, I just want to ask you, Cameron. How would people know who you are? I know people know the name, but like, what have you done that really kind of puts you on the map in the community?
Definitely, it would be I do the intros for Kind of Funny's and Review series. Sorry, I do the video portion of the intros. The audio is done by a very talented man named Carter Harrell, who does all of the music for the last year. But yeah, for the last 2 and a bit years, I've been doing the motion graphics, which if you are a very specific group of Kind of Funny's audience that watches In Review on YouTube, then you might recognize some of the stuff that I've done.
Yeah, which I have to say are like incredible.
Thank you.
Like
I have a big question surrounding that. Are you going to post more behind the scenes Twitter stuff like you did for the Edgar Wright In Review?
Yeah, I usually reserve that for when I have an intro that is a little more involved, a little more time put behind it, and I consider doing it for the second last one, the Marvel one that I had done, but I thought, oh, this is going to be too much to go through. Like, this thread's going to be too long. I'm not doing that until Kind of Funny did it themselves and had it was like a half hour of their podcast just going through it. So
yeah,
that's the only reason I didn't put anything up for that. But probably for whatever the next big movie series that they end up doing, like a big fan favorite one that happens, chances are that's when I'll probably do more of that kind of thing.
Spy Kids, Spy Kids and Reviews.
For sure, with Spy Kids. I've been thinking about Spy Kids for a long time, and I hope it happens.
There you go, Robin. I asked, okay?
Yeah. One of my big things about, any form of entertainment is you think about how many man hours go into something, how much time gets put into something like an intro, how many hours you spent concepting it, putting it together, making it real, showing it to Kind of Funny, having them go, wow, this is amazing, or hey, can we change this one thing, and then redoing something, etc. So I personally just love behind the scenes, and so people can kind of see the work that's put into something, whether it's a video game, whether it's, a movie, whether it's an awesome intro for Kind of Funny.
Right.
Because that work deserves to be put out there. That work deserves to be seen, and your work is no exception. You do some amazing things.
Thank you so much.
For the intros for Kind of Funnies in Review.
Thank you. It's it's part of the man hours thing. Just think about it. That's another one of. There are certain ones I'll do that maybe again they don't get any. I don't mention any behind the scenes stuff because there is a very wide range of. There's a couple I've knocked out in a couple of hours. Get the music, and it's obvious from there. So yeah, it varies a lot too with whatever's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I still think even if it takes a couple of hours versus, a couple days, like I still just love to see that stuff. Any artists like speed painting, like any of that stuff is just so cool to see the work that went into something. 100%. Right.
Maybe I'll put it up for the next one. There's I think they start Mortal Kombat on Monday. And so tomorrow, actually, I have to finish that intro up. I was waiting for last-minute assets from them on Friday night, and so have those now, be able to add them into it. So maybe I'll put up something for that, because that had a little bit more back and forth between Tim and I.
Nice. That's awesome.
Oh, I can't wait for that one.
So besides the intros for Kind of Funny, what else do you do, whether it's in the community or just for yourself, or just kind of throw some stuff out there?
I mean, I'm a filmmaker. I'm an editor. I work in the film and television industry, so it's a weird thing of that used to be my kind of answer in terms of things that I did for myself until it became a career. Was I edited? I made videos. More recently, I podcasted about a year ago. Stopped that during COVID just because format wasn't working. I'm very bad at answering this question. I'm not very good at dating apps for that reason because I don't know how to answer what my hobbies are anymore. But yeah,
no worries.
Can I ask how that transitioned from what you were doing at the time into doing what you're doing with Kind of Funny?
Yeah, so let me think. I guess what would have happened was I switched from what I was doing, went into film school in 2016, and I learned very basic things in After Effects while I was in that. None of it related to motion graphics, just mostly advanced green screen kind of stuff. And I always kind of wanted to play around on the side, learning how to recreate titles from movie intros. That was something I enjoyed trying to do a little bit when I was a kid. Whenever I would make a YouTube video, just trying to make something that looked a little more cinematic for a title. And so I practiced a little bit with Kind of Funny, and I think I had made a Harry Potter one back in, what year did I start? So maybe August 2018. And then come December, Spider-Verse came out. And at that point, I had maybe made a couple of pieces of fan stuff that Kind of Funny ended up using, but I watched the movie, loved the opening. January came along, they announced what their plans were for the year. They mentioned that their next thing they were recording was Spider-Verse in review. So the next day, I quickly put something together thinking, probably won't use it, but at least it will be something cool. Maybe they'll retweet it or something. And instead they liked it and they just instantly hit me up and said they want to work with me.
That's so freaking cool,
awesome.
Dude.
Yeah, so cool. Some of those old things are up on your YouTube channel.
They are.
I actually not to fanboy a little bit, but I've been watching your intros for a long time. And it's been really cool to see you grow as a creator and kind of better your craft. 100%. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, it is. I didn't feel like necessarily I was improving until I look back, and it was a few intros in before I actually was using something like After Effects. Like people would ask me sometimes to see my project files, which in general I don't recommend anyone ever does because not a good idea. but I couldn't because it was all just done frame by frame in Photoshop and then put into Premiere. So now being able to go in and complete a whole project right within After Effects and kind of have a better idea of what I'm doing, better organization, I have noticed the last, I'd say 6 months, feeling a little more confident about that.
Because you're both actually going back now and actually redoing them all, aren't you? Well, a lot of them, aren't you? Like the MCU one and...
A little bit, yeah. Anything that wasn't done by me and is a returning series, there's a good chance I'll end up doing. The one exception I'm not sure about is maybe something like Fast and Furious. And I don't know what else I haven't done. They had ones that were like X-Men. That won't be a thing again. Game of Thrones.
Let's hope not. No.
But all the music is being redone by Carter. Because just Tim said it before, they couldn't make money off of any other videos because they just threw in whatever copyright music there was, and yeah. So maybe I'm doing a couple little touch-ups for things, but the only big complete overhaul was MCU, and that was one where I messaged him in February, I think, or maybe it was January. It's February or January, and just messaged him up asking if he was interested in us like redoing that one at some point.
Where did the idea of using all the community art come from? I mean, aside from your own personal art, you know.
That was something that I'm not sure exactly where it came up, but I have somewhere on my computer test files from, I think, January 2019, where when I knew I was going to be working with Kind of Funny, I was like, okay, I have to get some practice in. And I kind of concepted what a Marvel intro would look like for them. And I knew that if I want to do it, I did want to try and create something that was like paralleling Kind of Funny's universe with Marvel's. And it just kind of felt like a no-brainer to include people they collaborate with and some kind of community aspect. There was going to be more community stuff involved with it. Not necessarily people's artwork, but just more of a maybe appearances in the intro. But things had to be cut for time, and there's also that line you have to be a little bit careful with of you don't want to put some community members in and then get people hitting you up asking why they're not in it.
Sure.
Yeah, but that was one thing when I messaged him asking if he was interested. He called me that like a few minutes later, and I talked to him on the phone a little bit about it, and pretty much said that I wanted to involve their wider group of people they work with and in bringing community artwork, and I had some ideas for it right from the get-go. Otherwise, I wouldn't have hit him up just because I want to make sure if we're doing something like that, we're getting it right.
Don't worry too much about it, Cam. Phil's just upset he didn't get paid for that.
Wait, what?
That was the other thing is I had to go through and be very careful of not hitting up people too early and trying to find, because I couldn't pay anyone for it, I wanted to only find existing Marvel artwork that had already been done. And that took a long time to search and actually find that stuff. For some people, it was years ago.
Yeah, some of that stuff was definitely back a while ago. Yeah. I think it was the perfect length, though. Like it was amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Carter knocked out the music, I think the same night maybe.
Wow.
He's fast. Carter is very fast. If it wasn't the same night, it was maybe like the next day, because I think it had been maybe a Tuesday, and by the end of the week, I had sent him I think the general 3D logo part at the end, I had sent him that without the video portions in it and just a couple assets missing. So yeah, Carter is very quick, which is very helpful when I need to be able to knock out an interest sometimes in a few days or a week or 2 weeks. He's very fast at turning that stuff around.
I think one of the things that really impressed me the most was the fact, obviously we used to your amazing intros, but a lot of the artwork that you did for it was actually work that you'd done yourself, right? Like a lot of the ones you'd taken the MCU characters and actually developed them to look like, obviously, the Kind of Funny crew. Like, how did that sort of process work? How long did it sort of take to make some of those?
I probably spent it was a while that I spent on it, but it was mostly just a while over. I didn't want to burn out, so I had about a month, and I spent a couple of days on a couple of different weekends just making sure, like, okay, I have to knock out this many this day. And so it ended up still being, I think, waking up at like 4 a.m. I think it showed up on a Friday, and the Thursday I was still up at like 4 a.m. Drawing a picture of Johnny Ace. And there was things like I picked up an Apple Pencil just to make sure I was able to get these things done a little quickly.
Did you have dreams after doing that at that time at night? Like,
it was I was delirious at the end of that day because I was just knocking out so much artwork, just finishing everything up, but nothing like it. Generally, though, it wasn't that bad because I did make sure to pace myself. I've had worse. I've had much worse.
That's awesome. And how about the Milk Mummy? Because I know after doing a lot of Milk Mummy photoshops, it sometimes can take a toll on a person. So
he's I tried to be. I try to sneak him in every so often. I don't. Did I have him in the Marvel intro?
It was definitely a Kevin one. It was probably not full on Milk Mummy, but there was a little bit in there.
Right.
No, not Ant-Man. Was who was it? That was.
He was Hulk. He was Hulk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember. I think Milk Mommy shows up in Mission Impossible. he shows up in very briefly in Transformers. He's hidden in there, but I said there was an Easter egg in there, and it was 2 frames. And I thought, like, no one's gonna find this, and it was like an hour later, someone tweeted it at me that they had found it. Like, okay, well, I'm not good at hiding these. I don't think I've used him much outside of that. Oh no, wait, he's the Kevin Smith movies. He's in that one.
That's good. And I was just making sure you weren't doing too much Milk Mummy, because I know it can have a bit of a.
You've got to have
someone's psyche.
Milk Mommy is a seasoning. He's not a. You can't like it. Seems as if you drink too much milk, you're just gonna feel sick. Like you've just got to have it as like a little bit. He'll be in the Mortal Kombat one though.
From Ben,
Gage, Ben is saying yes as if he uses him as his season. He does not.
Does it sparingly. Ben does it. I swear to God, there's a new Milk Mommy he sends to the group chat like every single day, and it's just atrocious.
Yeah, that might be a slight exaggeration, you know?
Is it? Is it, Ben?
I said slight.
Speaking of sneaking things into that Marvel intro, you may or may not know, but Raul Coley holds a special place in my heart as Reed Richards.
Yes, yeah.
And so it was really cool to see that little nod in there that you made. But not only that, but he retweeted it.
That was very exciting. My friend's a friend of mine is a fan of Funhouse, so being able to just show him every so often, like, hey, Elise, James, Raul, like tweeting about it, that was very cool. Just being able to show off to him a little bit, I guess. But that was one where I was excited when I talked to Tim. I think it was the second time we had a phone call about it, of just saying, like, first one I knocked out was Raul as Mr. Fantastic, and I think right after that, like, I talked about I want to do Cameron Cuff as Cyclops. Just trying to figure out like who are any. I think those are the only 2 real acting friends they have in there, like actual actors that were in it. But making sure, like, okay, if you're gonna do that, then what are the people they've been fan casted as before?
Sure.
But yeah, that was a fun one, and yeah, I looked up the artwork of them, the famous early Mr. Fantastic Photoshop.
The infamous. It's now infamous. Shout out to comicbookmovie.com, you know.
Stop it, Ben. That needs to die.
But and it was a good one, comicbookmovie.com.
Trying to explain that to a friend of mine of like why I was excited working on it, of like having to send like, hey, look, there's articles. People want to see this guy as Mr. Fantastic, so this is a fun thing to do. And them clearly not understanding it at all, but being very nice about it.
That's funny. Yeah, the thing that really blew my mind when that originally happened was my wife was scrolling through Facebook And she was like, hey, my husband made that, and clicked on it. And it was this article from comicbook.com talking about, not comicbookmovie.com.
No, the good comic book one.
Comicbook.com talking about Raul Coley being Reed Richards with like my tweet being front and center. It was just absolutely crazy and mind blowing.
Yeah, I remember that going on. That was very cool.
But anyway, I just love to see that that little rendition you made. It makes me so happy. I like, and it's not even about, you know, necessarily Raul making it as Reed Richards. It's the idea of a person of color, you know, getting that role. As much as I would love to like will that into existence, it would just be so cool to see somebody that could, you know, do that role. Just like they wanted, you know, people wanted him for Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Or not Ezra Miller. Oh man, Bridger.
Yeah, close.
Well, Miller is the guy from Flash.
Yeah, we don't talk about him. No.
Ezra Bridger from Rebels, and it ended up being the gentleman from Aladdin. And I think that's a great choice. I actually just rewatched the live action Aladdin just to watch him in action again, and seeing him in that street rat scene when he's really jumping around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be so good as Ezra Bridger. So like, oh, I can't wait.
That one makes me happy because I remember, what was it, like a year after that movie came out, him saying he still wasn't getting any roles.
Even just recently, there was an article I saw saying that this is like one of the major things he's kind of been cast in since that movie, and I'm like, how? He's so good.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah, especially after that movie made so much money.
Yeah, I was shocked that he hadn't been in anything because you watch it. And yeah, he's a movie star, right? He's great on screen in that role. Yeah. So you would think it would open doors, but no.
Now, you mentioned that you're doing TV and film editing as a job now, as it's not a hobby anymore. So how did that happen? What's going on? Tell us more about that.
I got hired. I should say I'm an assistant editor at a television production studio. I do actual like full-on editing from some short films and things like that. But those are just things I end up doing a festival run. But the main work I do is an assistant editor at just a television production studio, where I got hired there. It was within a few weeks, I think, of graduating in 2018. I think I graduated May 2018. I think I started June 2018. So I don't really know how to explain how it started. I just had a friend who had an internship at that place, and said they were looking for someone, and I applied, interviewed, and started like a week or two later. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got very lucky.
And then, so you probably can't go into like projects necessarily, but like, what do you do? What do you edit? Like, what's your brand of editing?
For me?
Yeah.
Or like what they make?
Yeah, what you're doing for them.
So mostly as an assistant editor, it's a lot of organization, very little creative stuff. I've gotten to do some things for when something's being pitched to a network. I've done a little bit more actual editing on things like that. But for the most part, as an assistant editor, it's a lot of just going through footage, making sure things are synced up as in terms of like audio and video, and creating multicams. Just, it's a lot of organization, a lot of technical stuff. So not something I want to do for a long time, and I'm hoping to find new work in the next year. But it was a pretty good first job, and it helped a lot with learning pieces of software, I guess, in post-production that I was not familiar with before I started, and they were the biggest missing pieces in terms of what would have been holding me back from finding a job somewhere else.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you say that, I mean, this experience definitely helped you in your own personal flow and in your workflow, just kind of seeing how things are organized professionally? And
yeah, so and this is going to sound cocky, I have been told that by the people I've worked with that I am very good at what I'm doing in terms of being an assistant editor. And to me, that's just weird because it's some of the stories I've heard is just people should not have had those jobs of being very unorganized with a job that's all about organization. And so what it has taught me is making sure if randomly if I was working on a show and I was hit by a bus or something, you need to make sure someone else is able to finish off what you were doing. And that's just helpful. And even in terms of not something going wrong, you not being able to finish, but a lot of post-production is worked on by multiple people. You'll have someone who is cutting the picture, someone who's going to be doing the color, someone who might have been assembling the edit before the person's even actually cutting it. You'll have someone else doing audio. And so you need to make sure that no matter who's approaching that project, they understand what everything is. If something goes offline, there's enough clues that you've given them through metadata that they'll be able to figure everything out on their own anyway. So that has helped me, just making sure that I maybe won't get overwhelmed a couple weeks into some kind of edit on something else, or even with kind of funny stuff of making sure like, okay, I have to be on top of how I'm organizing this. So if we do come like a year or two later, and like when Carter came on, right, and started redoing the music, I had to go back and find those original project files just to make sure that I can put things to time. I can put out new exports for them when we do something different, updated, like for the new DCU intro. I had to change Kevin in that. And if I wasn't thinking about it in terms of someone else being able to work on it later on, then I would have the same problem because I don't remember where every file is if I'm not being on top of things.
And then, like, for an example of like what kind of production are you working on professionally? Like just an example of something you can give us.
Yeah, it's not stuff I would watch.
Sure.
That's the best way I can put it. A lot of it is documentary,
Okay.
which that's very broad. I think the next one I'll be working on is like a Discovery Channel kind of show again, which it's had a few seasons, but a lot of it, some stuff ends up being paranormal things that, again, putting documentary in a very broad sense.
Broad spectrum, yeah.
Yeah, but it is a lot of it's a mix of unscripted and scripted, mostly just because sometimes you'll get things like recreation, but
sure. And then so like what's a timeline look like? Like when was the thing that you are working on filmed versus when it gets to you?
So for me personally, it's usually the next day is when it gets to me. My job is to get it to other people as fast as I can while being as organized as it can be. And so I have a very fast turnaround in terms of when I first get a hold of footage. It still ends up being there's probably always months of pre-production before anything is shot. But yeah, I'm usually the first one that sees any of the footage, which means I am always having people on top of me wanting to also see the footage. But yeah, no, I see it pretty quickly.
That's really cool. And how long would you say like an average production is? Like not just once it gets to you, but just like once it's like start to release.
So the one we're doing right now, I'm making sure because for a second I thought, oh fuck, did I forget? Can I swear on this?
Yeah,
you're good.
You're fucking fine.
Okay, good. I was making sure, like, did I remember to upload that to the network? I did. I just finished uploading the 8th episode of something to the network, and that will air in May. And I think that started shooting last June or July.
Oh, wow.
And so you'll often end up with, I can't remember what the ratio is, but it's something like pre-production, you'll probably spend twice as long in pre-production as you would on actually shooting something, the period of time, and then you'll probably spend like 3 times as long for post-production. I can't remember the exact ratio, but it's something like that. So depending on the size of the project, it could be if you shot for 3 or 4 months, you might spend 8 or 9 doing post-production.
That's cool. Yeah, it's really interesting to look at that and think about it from that perspective, because oftentimes get that insight. You're just looking at it from this outsider. Oh, the show got announced, like 4 months ago, but little do you know that it was actually like in production almost a year ago. So it's really cool to kind of just get that insight into how it all works out. How do you balance like that stuff with your extracurricular stuff for like Kind of Funny and personal projects?
I mostly just I have to knock out the Kind of Funny stuff on evenings and weekends, and I have to be very careful about burnout, because that has been a few things. Sorry, a few things. That has happened a few times with a few things, where if I have a long period of time where I do have to go to work 8 hours, come home, and work a few more, that I can't do that for too many weeks in a row. I have to make sure that I give myself a period of time off and remind myself, don't start anything new because you're going to get working on something again soon. I've gotten better about that over time, but there was like the first intro I did, I completely destroyed myself in a week. There is a lot of, it's very much a balancing act.
I know that Gage and Al and a couple of other of this Simply Sassy members do editing, and I know that especially on shows and stuff we're trying to put together, it can be hard to do a podcast and then another podcast and then a show we're trying to put together and hold a full-time job or other projects that we're trying to do and still maintain like a normal lifestyle. So how do you deal with burnout once it's hit? What's your go-to?
So that was part of it last year with the podcast I was doing. Is I was definitely experiencing some burnout, and it stopped being fun. But what's important is I guess you have to be a little preemptive with it. You have to, before you get burnt out is when you really have to start figuring out how you're going to handle it. And it might just be something of you might just have to give up doing something else for a little bit. Of my room was probably a complete mess during the Marvel intro. I knew like, okay, I'm not going to do anything for 2 weeks after so that I can get on top of things again. But you do really have to, I guess, figure out what that balance is and what you're comfortable with at the time. It is a big problem if it's something weekly, right? Like if you have a weekly show, I don't know how much you can really work around that, but there might be some things during the process itself that you can do. I was trying to figure out when we were doing stuff remotely that instead of editing it, can I record things live into OBS, and instead of having to go through and add on top of everything some lower thirds or like an overlay, can I have that happening while we're going, just so that I can save myself the time later? So it is just kind of trying to figure out how to work a little bit smarter while you're going.
I know Ben has experienced that. Like he had to take a break one time, and he stopped doing Please Be Excited plays for a while because there were just too many things going on. So that's great advice for sure. To break it up a little bit, what do you do for fun? What do you like to do?
I play games. That's like all I do for fun.
Sure.
It depends. I find things to relax with. Like sometimes I'll just go for a run, and that's my time to listen to music or whatever. But generally, my way I choose to relax and chill out is playing games. And even if it's just something simple and easy, or just popping into Minecraft for a little bit, whatever it is. Sometimes with people, just getting that social thing in. It's a little difficult during COVID to do much else, I found. That is the only way to really stay social with people. But yeah, that is mostly how I spend my time, trying to do things just for myself. There are sometimes I'll do like a side project. I've been working on stuff for a few months for some side project stuff, but that again, too much of that will lead to burnout again. So when it's purely just for relaxation, then yeah, that's my go-to.
What's your, besides Minecraft? I heard you say Minecraft. What's your other like go-to games?
So that's my go-to with friends. My go-to just for myself is if I'm fully zoning out and I cannot pay attention to a game, I'll probably just turn on Netflix and then turn on Spider-Man or GTA and either swing around or drive around. Like those are probably just my go-to, and for complete exhaustion at the end of the day. Other than that, lately I've gone back into Avengers. That's been a good one of like, that feels rewarding to be able to go at the end of the day and play something. There was a little bit of a problem with during COVID. I didn't feel like playing stuff where, I don't know if you guys experienced it, but when you couldn't do much else for fun for a while, like couldn't meet up with people, sometimes doing the same, like playing the same games over and over loses its appeal.
I mean, for us during COVID, like that's kind of how we all got together. Like we all kind of knew each other separately in Simply Sassy. But COVID kind of was our thing of like, hey, we all have time, even though we're in different time zones, because we're not working, we have extra time. Like, do you guys want to play something? And then, you know, we played a bunch of multiplayer games together, to kind of, you know,
Warzone, a lot of Predator.
A lot of Warzone, Predator hunting grounds. So yeah, I definitely understand that. 100%.
I know
What
there's a
about
very
movies? Do you
special
watch
game.
movies?
Oh, so you go.
Go ahead, man. Oh, go ahead.
There you go,
man.
buddy. I was going to say there's a very special game that I know holds a very special place in both our hearts, Cameron, and that's Infamous 2. So
Yeah, that's
tell us about your history with it, buddy.
So I let me think. That's back in 2009. I have a weirdly specific history with it. So
I
back
say
in,
go back and listen to the important business podcast because fascinating. It's such a great episode when you talk about that.
oh
That's
yeah,
great.
I forgot that I talked about that. So back in 2009, my brother and I, we were, I don't know how old, young. And we realized we both had money put away that we forgot about for years. It was like a few $100s each. That I guess every time we had birthday money, we just put it away and completely forgot about it. And one day, randomly, we found it in our closet. And I had seen a commercial online on TV for Infamous, the first one. Couldn't remember what the game was. Had to search online trying to figure it just based on some weird keywords of like lightning, running around, open world, that kind of thing. Found the game. Got it Boxing Day, fell in love immediately with it. It was my first time playing a game that was relatively new on like a current gen console at the time, because before that it was always like things I had gotten handed down from my cousins. And then I think it was E3 2010, they announced Infamous 2. And that I was obsessed with. I was going on the forums, like wanted every piece of information. And I was so into it that got me onto IGN, trying to read all the articles, and pretty quickly listening to Podcast Beyond, just trying to hear other people talk about that game that were just as excited about it. So obviously listening to someone like Greg for a while is going to build up that fandom a little bit as well. And I was thinking earlier today, on my shelf, there's a statue of Cole McGrath, which is, I think, the only piece of like video game artwork or memorabilia or anything that I own. Just because, yeah, leading up to that game, I was obsessed. So yeah, it holds a special place in my heart.
Nice.
That's actually
Yes.
one of my gaming wall of shames is Infamous 2.
Phil!
I know.
Hey, PlayStation Now, it's $1 for a month for the next couple days. It's on there, I'm telling you.
It still just
Got it.
holds up so well. I still go back and play that like maybe once every 6 to 12 months. And the gameplay is just, I mean, it's Sucker Punch, you know, it's always solid. But there's something about the second one, the move set, some of the special powers, and the just the insanity of some of those big moves you can pull off. There's nothing quite like it.
They've nailed traversal, and I've realized that's a key feature in games. If I'm going to stick around with them, is something like Spider-Man is one of the only ones where they've really nailed how fun it is to just move around the city. And that often is for open world games what makes me fall out of them if it can't get that right. And yeah, Infamous was the first one that just felt like it nailed it, like grinding along rails and being able to jump, glide along. Like they were able to keep momentum up pretty well.
Traversal in Infamous 1 was fantastic, but the weird kind of repetitive mission structure and the stealth missions where you had to kind of like stay out of sight like killed me in that game. And so I didn't love it. And then when 2 came out, I was like, well, I didn't love the first one. Why would I hop into the second one? And then the third one came out, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the main character is a Native American." And I'm like, "I'm in. Let's go." And I ended up loving Second Son. But yeah, since it's kind of stuck back there on the PlayStation 3, I never went back to play Infamous 2. Although hearing PlayStation Now is $1, I might have to do that.
I mean, that's it. It's scary. Of like PlayStation Now is the only way to like if you have not bought that game already. Later this year, that'll be the only way to access this through PlayStation.
That's why we need to keep pushing for this remake game, okay? We need to keep it sucker punch.
Also, because the frame rate and the resolution and the anti-aliasing is so bad in that first game. Like, they need to remaster that thing.
The frame rate is bad for PS Now games in general.
Whoa.
Like that's.
Well, I mean, all depends on
PS3 games that you can only stream.
Yeah.
For the most part, I would agree with you, but there have been a handful I've played that were decent enough, I guess. But again, it's depending on the game. Like if you stream Fallout New Vegas, it's gonna be trash because it's Fallout New Vegas. I love it, but
have you tried streaming on PS Now?
I have. These guys are all in North America, Vita.
So
yeah,
true.
I actually I won't say how I did it, but I managed to get PlayStation Now over here briefly for a little while on my Vita a couple of years back. It was actually pretty decent. But then again, that's not like insanely like you are gonna have times where there'll be lots of enemies on screen, but like it wasn't. It's not like a fighting game or anything like that.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky with. I've never had problems that much with lag, but it's never been my go-to. Like I have a Stadia Premier Edition that I get for free, and haven't even opened it. It's being used to prop up my mic right now.
That's what my PS1's doing right now. My classic PS1 Classic. It's in the box, propping up my mic. I like the technology. It's very cool, but it's not my. I've realized more and more it's just not my ideal way to play things yet. I love the idea of being able to play it if I'm not home, but I really hope that they find a way to not just. I don't want to. I'm so scared of my PS3 dying. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm like,
right?
Yeah,
that terrifies me.
I mean, there was
you can see mine right here.
Yeah, there was that IGN article like earlier this week where Sony patented like technology to retrofit trophies to older games.
Yeah.
So in theory, that could technically mean they're trying to get emulation working. That is, if Jim Ryan isn't trying to kill it.
I was about to say, if Jim Ryan has anything to say about
games, they look all blocky and stuff.
My only fear would be with that is PS3 had trophies. Not until like 2008 or something.
Yeah, it was
but that might be a PS1 or PS2 emulation thing then.
It's possible.
That's my favorite impersonation that you've got now, Gage. Jim Ryan impersonation. Hey, what's over there?
It was just like
it's like Greg's New York accent for bloody Spider-Man.
To be fair, that article was about Gran Turismo. I don't like the experiences that people want to replay and go back to on the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2 are probably not racing games.
No, it's games like Metal Gear Solid 4. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I can stream it on PlayStation Now, but like, I have a physical copy. If my PS3 dies, that game is like, that's it.
A nice brick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what he's thinking with that. Of like, I mean, look at movies of, you look back at the original Star Wars and the effects don't hold up. Like, graphically, that's an old looking movie, but for especially story-based games, right? Like, you can't just lose those things, and you would think someone in that position would understand the importance of making sure people have that accessibility to be able to go back and play legacy titles so they can be fans of newer ones.
Well, I mean, Breath of Fire, Suikoden, like all these classic PlayStation RPGs that still hold up today that like you can't find anywhere else because they're not being remastered or remade anywhere.
Though. Like one of the games that my best friend Largent, another member of Simply Sassy, one of the games we grew up playing was Champions of Norath on the PS2.
Man.
It's a Sony published franchise that never got remastered and never got put on like the PS2 classics, anything. And so if my PS2 dies, which I bought secondhand anyway, so it's already super old and used. If that goes, like I can't play those games anymore. They're just gone. But they're blocky and they're ugly, so why would anybody play this?
Now, Al, you mentioned a question earlier. I heard movies when you said it. What was your question?
Yeah, but we stayed on games, so I thought let's ride the games train out. In terms of movies, do you watch those for entertainment? Because you only mentioned games, and do you also watch any editors / filmmakers' particular works for inspiration?
Yeah, so I am considering I was in film and I still work in film. I am very bad about watching movies, and mostly just because I don't have the attention span like all the time. I never got diagnosed with it. I did speak to someone back in 2016 to start figuring out if I had ADHD, and I think that's part of it. I'm very bad for. I mean, that's just a small part of it, but not being able to focus on things that well for too long. And so it's very difficult for me to find a movie that I know, okay, I'm going to sit down and for the next 2.5 hours not do anything else because I want to experience it properly. I watch a lot of TV shows because it's much easier to be like, okay, this is 20 minutes. I can probably put it on in the background. When I do watch a good movie, it is pretty bad how often I have to remember, like, oh yeah, I actually really like doing this. But yeah, for go-tos in terms of inspiration, for editing, for sure, it's like a cliche for any editor. But Edgar Wright movies, those are always an obvious one of like, those are known for their editing.
Except for The World's End, though.
Yeah, that one had some issues. In terms of other ones, like a lot of the time, it's more tonal stuff rather than the editing. Like I'll pick up on little techniques when I notice them, but a lot of the time it is just. I like watching something like a Taika Waititi is one that I like. I'd argue he's probably my favorite director at this point. With movies like Jojo Rabbit and Boy, where it's less so the in-your-face editing techniques, and he's very good with pacing and transitioning between comedy and drama in a way of knowing how to play with the two to elevate like emotional engagement. And I think you get some very good directors who know that you can use comedic elements to kind of bring people in with the movie, get them more connected with characters, let them open themselves up a little bit more to the subject. And then I don't know if you guys have seen any. Have you guys seen Jojo Rabbit or Boy?
Oh yeah, big Taika fan. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll get something where you know what I'm talking about for these movies of like it'll be all nice and funny, and it makes it so when something devastating happens, it really hits hard. Versus if the movie is already depressing the whole time, like yeah, you might be sad during it, but it's not going to hit the same way.
There's a moment in Jojo Rabbit when something happens that is like a very big tonal shift.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you didn't have as much of the levity in the beginning, that moment wouldn't hit nearly as hard as it does.
No.
And it's masterful the way that works because you're already working with subject matter that is inherently depressing and horrible. Yeah. And yet somehow finding a way to make it make that levity of it and entertainment, and then you throw that part into the mix and you're just like, whoa. It's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, I remember that exact moment happening and just tears running down my face in the theater, and it did not stop until the ending because like the movie from then on is nothing is as devastating as that moment, but every little moment, whether it's a joke or whether it's wholesome or even still just sad, like all of it was hitting harder because they waited so long and they did it in such a simple but perfect way. Hitting you with it, like they knew just exactly the right amount to give you for it just to destroy you.
I don't think there's another director that can hit the comedic highs and dramatic highs and find that perfect balance than Taika. Like, it's just, there's some that can balance it, but I don't think there's sometimes the comedian. I think the sort of more comedy side of it suffers a little bit, or the drama suffers a little bit. But the way he can actually mix the two, just and perfectly blend it together, it's just so good.
Yeah, he's something I very much like about him is the style of comedy he does is I like that every character kind of just wears their heart on their sleeve, and even if someone is ashamed of something or embarrassed, like they're a little bit obvious about it. There's just a lot more. It's not a cynical movie. There's no real. I feel with a lot more American comedies, you get a main character who is friggin' played by Vince Vaughn or something, who always has to be the cool guy, always has to be sarcastic about everything, and you never give a shit about them, right? Whereas, like, you watch a Taika Waititi movie, and it's always kind of a loser, right? They're always someone that you have to sympathize with a little bit, and it's just, I don't know. I like that a lot more, I think.
I think the thing for me that's really interesting about his films is you look at, this is kind of apples and oranges, but you look at something like the Snyder Cut, where you are given 4 hours with these characters, and somehow Taika is able to take a 2-hour movie and give even the smallest roles that much character and that much depth to where you care what happens to them.
Right.
And I think that's amazing, you know, with half the runtime.
I think Zack Snyder was able to do that as well. The only difference is the fact that he used about 3 hours of slow-mo footage. So it just kind of padded all that and made it seem a lot more bloated.
I don't know. I'd be intrigued to see someone cut that movie down or speed up those slow-mo sequences and see how much you could really cut out of it.
I was so close to trying it the other day. I was not as out on the movie as other people, and there was just part of me thinking, like, okay, can I do this? I tried to do it back with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But not worth my time.
Because I feel like I might have enjoyed that movie a little bit more if it wasn't 4 hours of my life.
Yeah, if it wasn't so. And this sounds awful, but I don't like when I watch a movie and it feels like you're watching the director masturbate in a mirror. What?
So what you're saying is 300. Because that's literally all that movie is.
I mean, that's what
Sucker Punch, you know?
Sucker Punch is even better of an example.
He's doing. I mean, it's full on. That's all that movie is. That's what. That's what Zack Snyder's Justice League is. But
direct quote. Put it on the box, people.
Watching Snyder Cut is like watching Zack Snyder masturbate in a mirror for 4 hours, quote unquote.
That's amazing. Changing topics slightly, because obviously you mentioned your podcast, just slightly. I think the episode I got up to was the one just before your big Valentine's Day special. I need to go back and listen to that. If you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys recorded that. That might have been just before you stopped doing it. But you mentioned more than anything, it was probably about the format of the show that you didn't really like, and obviously maybe burnout. But obviously you guys had such great cadence. It was such a good show. Is this something that you might try and rework or do again in the future with that?
Yeah. So part of the problem is we went into it thinking we were a little too. We thought, okay, we'll just treat this as whatever we feel like doing that week. It will just be whatever. We'll make it the podcast. And so with the Valentine's Day special, I think we took a week off before and a week off after because we burnt ourselves out. But it was that and episode 13 of the podcast are both the examples of kind of what we want it to be. And realized pretty quickly when we weren't doing that, we weren't enjoying making the show as much. When we just want to make something a little weird and different, that's what was working. And because of that, the just basic podcasting stuff often suffered. And we were very tired. My friend lived not too far away, but when I had to drag all of the gear to his house, anytime that we were recording. I would start the episodes exhausted. It was in the middle of the winter, so I've been freezing cold and get inside. I was sweating under my jacket, and it takes a while to set up, and we do that, and we record for a while, and then we always did 2 episodes back to back when we would do it, just so we didn't have to do every weekend. And yeah, no, that was a big problem of just by the end of the night, we are exhausted, not enjoying it. So the hope is that if we come back, we will have something else that is our main thing in terms of a creative outlet. And then the actual podcast will be a thing that we do that will keep short and to the point, and much more relaxed. We don't want it to anymore be not because we're never trying to drive for views, clearly, but we never want it to be the main draw of what we're doing anymore. I think.
I think the best parts of the podcast was when you were just sort of, like you say, relaxed and goofing around and just having fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because when we thought like, okay, maybe we'll have weird things that we bring in, and it ended up just disrupting the flow and exhausting us trying to figure out how to incorporate them. Like episode 13 starts with a song that we made, and I think it's like 3 or 4 minutes long, and it's just, we were so tired and we're just like, episode 14 is, I think, half an hour long because we did episode 13 and we got very drunk during it. Had for the second episode, we said some stuff that like nothing offensive. It was at some point my 2 co-hosts were just listing off phone numbers they knew. And
Oh no!
after this is a mess. Like that was the last one we recorded in person, and after that, it never got better. So.
That's
do you think with the problems of having to set all the equipment up and everything, do you think you'd look at doing it remotely if you could, or do you think you'd lose some of that cadence?
The goal now is, I lived with roommates before where it wasn't possible for me to do it at my own place. Now my roommate is one of my co-hosts, and so either whenever we do this again, it was supposed to be, we're aiming to start again, I think like last November. I have a better feeling that it'll be closer to summer or fall when we start doing stuff again. But there's another thing we're working on that will be our main focus. And once that's there, and I think it'll be much more accessible for people, then it will just be relaxed, grab the equipment out of the closet, set it up in the living room, have everything kind of already where it needs to be, not have to move the couch around, not have to move my friend's desk around and clear everything off. Like, that is the goal, to make it much, much faster, that we don't have to spend an hour setting up. We can spend 5 minutes, and not have to do all that travel. I think that will make for a more relaxed podcast, and keeping it to an hour instead of, we were bad before of like, maybe we went for like 50 minutes, maybe we went for 2 hours, and
we can't relate to that here, you know.
Sorry?
I said we can't relate to that here, you know.
Well, I mean, at least with you guys, right? Like you guys seem like you're enjoying yourselves, right?
Oh, it's so much fun,
We're
dude.
just really good at acting.
Especially Gage.
Yeah, every time the Gage looks like he wants to wrap a noose around his neck, that's him acting.
Acting. No, dude, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. It's going to be awesome. So
I think it's looking forward to that. I think it'll be different, and I got the domain for it, and I was very happy it was available. So, yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
as Important Business's #1 fan, if you need any kind of feedback or anything, feel free to DM me. Let me know.
Oh,
Happy to get a sneak peek if you ever, you know.
I will definitely do that. I can. Maybe I'll hit you up later just with the ideas of what we're bouncing for it.
And then, does anyone else have any pertinent questions before we get to Ben's favorite question?
Be a fun question. About everything
Al, do you have
I was
anything?
curious about answered, so I'm good. I'm ready for
We've already
this.
talked about
Same
Infamous
here.
too, so
Yeah.
and the fact that Phil hasn't played it. So Phil, just play
I
Infamous 2,
know. As soon as you said Infamous 2, I was like, oh no, this is oh god.
Also play
There's
Dragon's Dogma.
no game that I've played that makes you feel more like, even Spider-Man, I feel more of a superhero in Infamous. Like you're watching these crooks on the street, you follow them into an alleyway where they're about to attack someone, and you just lightning.
I
stab,
honestly-
stab.
The more I've heard about Infamous 2 over the years, the more I've just felt so bad about being not being able to play it so far, and
You should.
You
I
will,
need to
buddy.
change it.
That could be
Something
a
I
fun
like
for you.
about this games is I do think it makes you feel a little bit more like a superhero because you can mess up and kill a civilian. And so it's a lot more of your powers are much more destructive. You could be very careless. Whereas in Spider-Man, like, they're not even going to let you kill. You kick a bad guy off a building and he's going to get webbed to the side, and you feel it's fun to do, right? But you're not thinking about keeping the civilians safe while you're doing it.
Now-
And I think that's the difference.
Here's a question I have. I've tried to see the animation where he's putting some sort of like device on the enemy.
It just
Like,
shows up.
yeah, like is he just doing it like while he's fighting them, he punches him in the chest and drops like a little web shooter in their like pocket or something,
I
and then
think
when he kicks them off the building, it shows the elevation and the rate of fall, so it shoots the web out of his chest or something. Like, this is how I've rationalized it in my brain.
Yeah, that's what I did as well. But if thinking about it's like you could technically knock someone else off without ever touching them.
Sure.
So it is
Sure.
definitely just a bunch of nonsense.
As long as they're not Zack Snyder's webs, then I don't mind. So Infamous 2, Phil, play it, okay? It's a great game. We love you.
Okay.
We want to
All
see
right.
you have a great time playing Infamous 2. So if no one's got questions, shall I get into the big question that I like to ask?
Yes, let's do this.
It's all you, Ben.
So Cam, the big question we ask everyone. You know Greg Miller.
I do.
You do. We know that he is everywhere at all times. You know, who knows how he can be hosting EA Play while twittering at the same time, while, you know, then jumping straight into a show. No one knows how he does it. We've had some theories from some great people. We've had that he might be a different species entirely. We've had the alien, the android. I'll be talking about my theories on the show very soon in an upcoming episode, but I'd love to know what your theory is as to what Greg Miller could be.
Just recently we had that he has a recovery chamber in his house that he steps into, and it's like a mixture of the hyperbolic time chamber and the recovery Frieza's recovery chamber from Dragon Ball Z. That was the most recent one.
Whoa.
So.
Nice.
I think he's an experiment, and because he's a very talented guy, he has a lot of different skills, right? And I think he's just an amalgamation of all the perfect versions that came before him. So you get people who are like Rosie O'Donnell, who's like a host on things. That's a prototype Greg Miller. You've got that kid,
This might be my favorite theory. Yeah.
Spencer Breslin, that kid from like Cat in the Hat. That's the young Greg Miller prototype. You've got the friend character in Jojo Rabbit. That's another one. So like those are the comedic versions of him. Those are all these.
Can I tweet that out, Cameron?
They bring them together, and it's just this is the one that they perfected. That's able to do all these things, but also just has the energy somehow.
So do you think that means that his memories are implanted? Do you think any of his memories are real, or do you think they're just implanted for comedic effect?
I think maybe I think he's a big fan of Superman because he was one of these experiments that got away. It escaped. His parents found him and adopted him. They're not his real parents. They raised him as if he was their own. They raised him as if he was human. And he grew up and he's trying to blend in now. Not very well.
Do you think they made him like under Mizzou? Is that like a lab under Mizzou is where they made him?
That would make sense. The only thing I would be worried about is I don't think he would show his face there if he was an escapee. If he
But you know your traumatic events sometimes get repressed. So maybe he just always wanted to go there because of that repressed memory that he wasn't letting himself remember.
That would make sense. That's why he's so drawn to it.
Yeah.
He knows he has some it would make sense why he's gonna be twice his age since he attended there, right? And he's still like waving
Yeah.
that flag.
Yep, 100%.
I
Every
love
day,
that
all
you went
day.
with the boy from Cat in the Hat. He just looks exactly like a little baby Greg Miller, like baby face Greg Miller. You chucked some glasses on that kid.
I'm thinking they looked identical. Like, He looked just like Greg back then.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's amazing.
One day we're gonna have to
answer.
we're gonna have to take all of these answers and just make like a little comic of Greg's creation. Each chapter is just like a different way he was made or works.
Oh, we're definitely doing that. Definitely.
It'd be great.
That's awesome. So is there anything that you want to kind of throw out into the world that you're working on or coming up with, or where can people get at you?
So, the easiest way to see any of it, because there's nothing that I know exactly when any of it will show up, is just my Twitter handle, at Cameron Ken on Twitter. Mostly just because I have things like some of the short films I worked on as they're finishing their festival runs, they'll be going up there. The last one that is currently technically still in its festival run, I think. Actually, I sent a cut to Tim early on. He was able to give us some really good feedback on it. So that hopefully in the next, I'll say 6 months, maybe will be online. If I do get these side projects going properly, then that'll definitely be, I'll be promoting the hell out of that on there. And just always like anything I'm doing with Kind of Funny, it's going to show up through there. Any other side work that I end up doing, because I've got a few other things probably and seemingly in the works with other people and companies that are motion graphics related. Those will also be showing up through there. Otherwise, I really don't have a good spot to lead people.
Nice.
Awesome.
I think that works pretty well. Just Twitter seems to be the go-to for most people. Just hey, go to Twitter,
that's
and
true.
that kind of eventually leads everywhere else.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Anybody else have any closing thoughts, questions, comments, anything?
I think that's it.
Awesome.
No, it's been a great
Awesome.
show. Thank you so much for coming on, Cam.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It's, first time I've actually gone to podcast in probably not quite a year, but close.
Well, thanks for
Awesome.
choosing us, buddy.
Yeah, we're glad you
Yeah.
came on the show.
Yeah, this is a lot of
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
No one ever regrets coming on the show, you know?
Yeah, nobody ever.
fun. I mean, you guys
Just
have a
me.
big
Just me.
Gage, I love you. I'm so sorry.
And making me regret coming on this show every week, Phil. All right, and I guess we can go around for all of us now. Al, where can people find you?
Al Tribesman on everything, and theoupod.com is where you can find some of my stuff.
Phil, how about you?
You can find me at Phil J Woodward on Twitter. That's pretty much the best place to find me. I'm trying to start streaming more, so you can find me at Philip J Woodward on Twitch.
Streaming Infamous too?
You know what? That's a great idea.
There we go.
That'd be awesome. I'd watch it.
Cool.
Ben, where can people find you?
You can find me at Please Be Excited, please let it be, and then Excited on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram. The Instagram just has some underscores in there. You can find me at the OU Pod with my good friend over there, Al Tribesman. We are just in the process of wrapping up the the first season of New Girl. So reviewing that. So definitely check that out. I'd say even if you don't like New Girl, especially some of the later episodes are good.
A lot of fun.
So much fun.
Just-
We've got some great guests on, so you should definitely check that out.
Just remember to do your homework.
Make sure you do your homework, unlike a certain person that may or may not be on
Or
the
at
show
least
right
just
now.
show up, you know?
Damn.
We don't want you to do the
You haven't
homework.
seen gameplay of this yet,
Just
Ron?
showing
Oh
up
my
is just
God.
fine.
Twitch and
So that's me.
I love you, Phil.
Yeah.
OUPod.com.
I love you
We're
too,
actually
Al.
also we're very close to 100 subs. We're only like 14 people away. So if you would love to sub to our channel and get some crazy content, we would very much appreciate it. Just the OUPod.com.
Also, sub to this channel. If you're watching stuff on here and you're not subbed, the hell's wrong with you?
Why do we never ask
I know a
people to
couple of
sub to
people
the
who do
channel?
that.
Dude, I don't think we ever pimp out the channel this stuff is on. Hey, when we get to 300 subs, we're gonna make merch, okay? I mean, like, what more do you
Hit
guys
the bell.
want?
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell. Yeah, hit that like button. Leave us a comment. Oh God.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching Simply Sassy content. All we want you to do is to go down here, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Yes.
Dude, I'm just gonna take that
No,
and just put
cut
like
that
30
out.
You got an
jump
entire
cuts.
episode
Yeah.
like that.
Just so many
At the end
jump
of
cuts, man.
every
Jesus
Brilliant.
Christ.
Can you keep that up, Phil?
Always. I can always keep this up. We can do whatever you want. Hey, Cameron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I just want to know
drugs?
all about your editing.
Phil took all the drugs.
Apparently.
That's why you saw it.
goddamn.
You saw his head go down like this, and then it came back up. Like that's what he was doing. Gage, finish the show.
Hey everybody, you can follow me at GF2Cool on Twitter. Also, everybody at home probably heard multiple random voices. It's because I was trying to find my Twitch channel. I forgot what it was, and Twitch loves to autoplay stuff on the front page, so just random voices came through. That was awesome. Jesus. Anyway, yeah, I might start streaming on Twitch again. I haven't decided.
Yes.
Yay.
Working on some cool stuff in Unreal Engine.
Regrets?
I mean, I still technically owe you, but like, if I don't stream games, I won't have to do that. I'll just stick to graphic design and VFX, and nothing else.
I'll settle for that.
I'll support you, Gage.
Yeah, maybe I'll get back to that sometime. I don't know. But seriously, subscribe here to this channel, please, if you haven't already. You can also follow us at Simply Sassy Vids on Twitter, and keep up for the next couple weeks of content. We have some great guests coming up. And I wish I could talk about a couple of them, but
Yeah, you guys have a big April 1st coming up, don't you?
yes,
we do.
yes, we have a big video coming on April 1st.
And that'll be right. That stuff will be up by the time this episode airs, won't it?
It will.
Yeah,
I believe so.
it will be. Indeed.
What is time? I don't even know anymore. So
Who
yeah,
does?
that'll have already that'll be it by now. There's also another awesome video I haven't shared publicly yet that we might be dropping at some point in the near future. Hint, hint. A new trailer for a new project. Hint, hint. So yeah, keep an eye on that, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.